All right. Still sick. Hopefully, I won't be like this in the next week or two. Next time, I will be getting some antibiotics. I thought this would pass in a few days. It's lasted a week, but I want to talk about being broke and like how I overcame it. I was there, you know, multiple times in my life. It's not fun, but when you're there, you can get through it. I'll tell you my story. Yeah, like I've always worked and everything. But when I was a late teen, in my early 20s, I was making like minimum wage, working retail, and I saved up a couple thousand, $1,000. I had, what I wanted. I didn't own a very nice car or anything at the time. And I got up to a couple grand and then started getting up past 10,000, saving money, doing good. And if you're in a toxic relationship or like you're with someone who's just sucking you dry, like get out of it. Like don't stay in it. I stayed in a really toxic relationship for way too long, many years. And I went from like being financially decent to like broke. And people like this will just suck you dry, man. You have to run for the hills. And I would, you stay in it, you try to fight the fight, and you think you can change somebody. You're never going to change somebody. They're going to change for themselves, and you trying to change them is just going to drag you down with them. Trust me. So I went from having over 12 grand stacked, a stable job to like no job. And in the course of like a year and a half, like no money. And then, we split. She got kicked out, ran me dry. Still to this day owes me thousands, but I'll never see a penny of that, which it is what it is. But I just want to give you perspective on what, took me to rock bottom. And I vividly remember having $7 in my savings account. And this was many years ago, like over 6 years ago. I gained like 80 pounds. I was working out all the time. I went from like 225 down to like 160. I was in great shape. And then I was back up to like 200. And then when I was unemployed, I went all the way up to 280 in like a year and a half, 2 years, or 280. So I gained all this weight. I was severely depressed. I had $7 to my name. I was actively drinking every weekend. And I remember I couldn't, family was helping me out, lending me money, which I paid all that back. I don't ever hold a debt to nobody. I've always paid my way, but this was a bad time. And when I was in it, I just got through it. But looking back, it's like so depressing to think about. Like, I remember having $7 and was drastically overweight, depressed, just wasn't working out anymore. I remember, I've told a few people this story, but I remember scrambling around quarters to buy Four Locos, which I do not recommend touching those. They're disgusting. And you drink 3 or 4 of them, you're just like, you don't know what you're doing. Those things are disgusting, and they just take you for a whirlwind, man. Scrounging quarters around because I remember they were like $3 at the time at a local pizza joint. I was scrambling quarters around to buy 3 or 4 of them to get a drunk on and then, go do whatever. And I remember like thinking like, man, I got $7 to my name. I'm scrounging quarters for alcohol. And, it was my fault too. I can't blame it all on my ex because I allowed it, you know what I'm saying? And it'll never happen again. It was a hard life lesson. I was indebted to my family, a couple $1,000. It was racking up by the month. But I remember that day thinking, wow, this is rough. And I know a lot of people have it worse than me. They're in massive debt, you know, in general, or they have a really bad substance problem. But, yeah, and then I got a call from my buddy. He was getting me into the oil field. Got in, busted my butt for a good 3 years, but I was back on my feet within a few months. Within a few months, you can really, you know, within 6 months, I had my family paid off. I had a couple grand stacked again. There's a lot you can do with working a few months. That's all it takes, you know. And there's a lot of people I know that work full time that don't have money, that they could drastically change their life if they just, you know, switch their financial habits for a few months. They'd be in a much different place, but people don't learn. But I've learned a lot throughout, you know, the years. But I had everyone paid off. Then a year I took out my credit score was great. Took out a car loan, had a very nice car. That's well past 70% paid off now. But at the time I took on that debt, so that was like $20,000 in debt, and I didn't have that kind of money back then. But I grinded through it, and you got to think long term. In a year, you can drastically be in a much better financial situation than, you know, you were a year ago. In 5 years, you could be light years ahead of yourself. You got to think. A lot of people don't think weeks, months, years ahead. And that's an advantage I have now. I know next year at this time, I'm going to be in twice as good of a spot as I am now. And I'm great now. Everything is perfect. I'm very happy with my life. Sometimes you got to go through these things to wake up and to learn, right? There's a reason you put through these things. You got to withstand the test. You know, some people falter to these things, you know. Some people take their lives. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have some rough times, you know. You know, thoughts can get bad and depressing at those times, but those days are gone for me, man. I've been through, you know, severe depression, laying around. I remember working third shift in retail, like as a cashier when I was young, and coming home and sleeping for like 20 hours straight because I just didn't want to get out of bed. I've been through that. I'll never go back. I've been broke twice. I'll never go back to it. I'll never let myself go back to it. I have I'm diversified in so many assets, and I've learned the stock market. In crypto, I learned how to do technical analysis. I have a few years of experience now, and I know how to make money. I can see trend lines with collectibles. I've done very well with that type of stuff too. If you haven't seen that on my channel. Yeah, so like if I can do it, anybody can do it. And you just have to think ahead. But yeah, the oil field, I grinded out in there. That's not for everybody. A lot of long hours. There's pros and cons to it. But yeah, during that time off, if you get complacent and you're not working, or if, you know, being physically active and you're eating a lot, you're going to put weight on, you're going to get more depressed. That's going to compound the depression. And then seeing your bank account drain, that's going to compound the depression. I don't know how I got through it. And I'll tell you what, going into the oil field at 280, I bought a pair of Brahmas because I didn't have money, really cheap work boots. And I wore them for like the first month, and my feet, with the weight and not working that long and going in being that overweight, my legs were just, in an 8-hour shift, my legs were fried. I could barely walk. That was horrendous pain. And then I started losing weight, you know, while working there, and I got a good pair of Timberland Pros. I live by these work boots. That's all I buy anymore. They really helped. Losing the weight helped, but I don't know how I got through it. I don't even know how I passed my physical fit test for that place, but God willing, man, I got through it. And yeah, when you're complacent for that long and you go back to work, your legs are gonna hurt for like 2 or 3 weeks regardless. But with that weight, it was horrendous pain. I'd be lifting like 1 foot up to like alleviate it, and then I'd swap back by the end of the day. I was doing that on repeat. So yeah, That's my backstory with finances. I've been to the bottom, and I look back and like I'm really proud of myself for what I've obtained, and like how financially savvy I've gotten with like my credit. I have a 780 credit score. I know some people have that 800 juice, but I don't have a mortgage. I don't really particularly want a mortgage at this point in time. I could if I wanted to, but I'm going to wait, especially with like interest rates and stuff. I wish I would have got into real estate pre 2019, 2020, but it is what it is. Hindsight's 2020. But yeah, also talking on finances, like drop your vices, man. Like if you're smoking or vaping, like it don't matter. If you're spending $50 a week, that's $200 a month. That's literally $2,500 a year of liquid monetization you could have for something you want, you know, or an asset you want to put into. That's the way I look at things now. Everything's like an asset. If you're spending even $20 to $60 a week on alcohol, that's $80 a month. You're looking at $1,000 a year. Now, people that smoke 2 packs a day and they drink, you know, let's do a really severe case. 2 packs a day, let's say $20 a day in cigarettes, and you're drinking, if you're a heavy drinker, but you're functional, let's say $20, so $40 a day, right? 80, 120, 162. It's almost $300 a week, okay? Some people actively are like this too. I know people that are like this. So we'll say 300, let's cut it down to 250. So we'll say $1,000 a month. You're spending $12,000 cash money in hand every year in devices. And I know people that do this. This is a real thing. Some people are worse than this. Some people are less than this. You know, it all depends. I know people that spend $20 a week and that's it. That's still $1,000 a year on alcohol, but like that's very moderate, right? If you go out or just drink once a week, whatever, or you drink once a month, that's $20. You're not even spending $300 a year then. But $12,000 a year, you're talking like big money you could have in certain assets and subsects of investments. You could invest that money. You could put that money into, you know, a lot of these people carry debt too. They could be paying off their debt. Never buy anything on credit unless it's cash back and you're going to pay it off within a month. Like I bought my computer, got $80 cash back, paid it off the next month, paid no interest on it. Collection I bought out, cash back, $20, $30 I got cash back, paid it off, no interest to the bank. That's how you got to run credit lines. And then you can up your credit lines as time goes on. The better your credit score, the lower interest rates you're going to get. You can even finance a car for 0% for 2 years and pay it off and never pay the bank anything. The better your credit score and the harder your credit score, the more the bank's going to trust you and the more lenient they're going to be with you. If someone's telling you your credit score doesn't matter, they're being an imbecile, straight up. All right? I never carried any debt until my car. And to be quite honest, my car is the only physical debt I paid interest on. And yeah, I got hammered on it, but it's in the past. The interest is already done. The first 50% life cycle of your loan, you're paying the most towards your interest. So my interest has been paid off. And yeah, I should have refinanced it, but you know, the pandemic and everything, I just didn't care. That's something I'll never do again. And my credit score is so well off now that I won't ever have to even worry about, you know, high interest rates. And my interest rate's not even that bad. Like there's people that pay 10, 20% if they go to buy here, pay here, and they pay more towards interest than their car's worth. And to me, that's just insanity. But that's what they do. They'll approve you, but they're going to annihilate your butt while, you know, you're financing that car. They're going to make sure they make as much money as possible off of you. So people that don't have a good credit score, they take advantage of. And that's the payoff. Like they're taking the risk on you, but they're going to, you know, make tons of money back off of you. So credit score is a huge deal. And I know people my age that just know nothing about it. They don't know how to do it. It's simple. I'll make a whole different video on it. On how to get your credit score in the right spot. And it's basically as simple as getting a secured card, maybe getting approved through Discover, Capital One, and then you run 2 credit lines, like pay for gas, pay it off, buy a meal, pay it off each month. Do that for 6 to 12 months. Your score will go above 700, but you have to be consistent with it. And a lot of people either don't care. I know I didn't care till I was in my late 20s, or they just have no clue when it's the most simple thing. You know, it's so easy. But just remember, doing what I just said will build soft credit. Hard credit comes from like an auto loan or a mortgage, something like that, like a $200 to $400 payment consecutively every month for, you know, a few 6 to 12 months to a few years. The bank will consider that a hard credit then, because you're taking on more severe, you know, payments and debt rather than just spending $10, $20, $30 a month on a card, which your average person can easily do, and they know that. But I'll make a video on that later. But anyways, thanks for watching, and take it easy.